Alright, let's do a little cleanup here. Now that thing, just make sure our outliner stays organized. So we're getting pretty close here. Got this thing still to do. This I think is going to be pretty easy. I'm not even likely to show you. Just go ahead and retop it just like we've retopped everything else. There anything special about it. I'll show you what the end result looks like. But this is probably a little bit more of a challenge for sure, and I'm going to figure this out in real time about what the best way to go about retopping this thing is. I think the easiest process for making this low poly is, first of all, I kind of want to orient this thing so that it's a little bit closer to what's going on with world space. So I'm going to modify center pivot, right? Like right now, if I were to hit the W key, the pivot is going to show up at the origin. Let me turn off my live surface. So what does that mean? If I go to the grid, the pivot is going to be at the grid, which is normally totally fine. But if I'm going to orient this thing, if I try to orient it, I'm going to be, you see how it's like off and kind of odd and difficult to manage? I don't really need to worry about that. I can always put it back to the origin. That's about the easiest pivot operation you can do. You just turn on grid and snap it back. But what I'm going to need here is I want this thing to be centered, so we're going to modify center pivot. And then I'm going to go to the side view. And if you hit the plus key, I think it's, yeah. So I just hit shift plus, because the plus you have to hit shift to get to it. And I'm just going to rotate this up. And the reason why it is important to have centered the pivot is I'm going to need to put this thing back at its original orientation. So you can see I've got whatever this random degree is, that's going to be what it just happens to be the closest way. And I'm just looking for like aliasing, which would be like this kind of stair stepping stuff on that edge there. And it looks like there's a tiny bit there, but that's not really going to cause any problems. All right, so now I'm going to look at it from the front view. And the front view is probably okay, but we can go ahead and give it a rotate so that we're just a little bit straighter. And the reason this is going to be useful is I'm probably just going to use a cube and just like extrude a cube along these faces here. So I don't want that grid in the way anymore. And I'm also going to use symmetry. So what that means is I'm probably going to, I think I've got object symmetry as an option, but you know what, if you're retopping, it doesn't have like a relationship with whatever the object that you're working on is. Like if I was going to like grab these verts over here, I think if I turn on object symmetry, and you can see that's going to be the Z axis, so we'll try object Z. Yeah, I think because it has rotations on it, this isn't really setting off the symmetry stuff. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn on the grid one more time, which is over there. That's my origin. And I'm going to turn on grid snap, and I'm going to move it. Well, grid snap clearly, I think I got this confused. That's grid snap. Try that again. All right. So now if I grab verts over here and I turn on world Z, I'll go ahead and they'll show up on the other side. Assuming I've got the right axis here. Pretty sure I do. Let me just experiment with world X. Yeah, it's definitely world Z. All right, I don't need to worry about this. It's mostly the geometry that I'm about to create. I want it to have symmetry in world Z. All right, so let's go ahead and, now that this is all set up the way it needs to be set up, I'm going to turn off my grid snap, and I've got all of my transform information over here. And what that means is I can just zero this out, and this will go right back where it belongs. Let me show you what I mean. Bam, right, perfect. So this is going to be something I definitely do not want to freeze transforms on. You can always just re-import the FBX, but then you've got to like set the position up on for your low poly, and that's going to be kind of a hassle. Okay, enough preamble. I'm going to create a polycube. And I'm a little concerned because I can already see there's a difference in how this thing is, like how much meat there is on one side versus the other. Let me just do a freeze transform. I mean a center pivot. So let's modify center pivot. Well, I guess that's what we're working with. So we'll just whatever. We'll see what we can get here. So I'm going to shrink this little cube thing down here so that we are and because the tube is circular, I want to make sure that I maintain my cubiness here, because I can basically add some bevels and it'll round that stuff out. So we'll just kind of do something like this. And if I grab this one, I can scale whatever these x and z at the same time. And I'm just looking for like a little bit of intersection there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but close is good. All right, so there's that, and then we'll go ahead and just going to duplicate this, Control D, and scoot it out to this piece here. And then I'm going to grab verts, and we'll just kind of scroll it down. The alternative process for this would be to actually just retop it the way that I have showed with the previous geometry, and I just think for something like this that would just be really painful. This may be painful too, but I don't know, for some reason it seems somewhat better. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again, and I want to make sure that my rotation is 90. So the rotations and all that stuff for the geo that I'm making now, this new stuff should be much more regular and easy to figure out. Cool. Okay, let me go ahead and adjust this, and I'll just kind of give you actually, I'm going to leave it in cubes for now. I was going to show you what I'm thinking of, but I think I'm going to basically delete these faces, do a bridge, and then do a connect or two, and have it preserve the edge curvature. I just want to make sure that this is all kind of lined up. And then for this, we might have to bite the bullet and just retop it. But we can experiment here and see if we can shortcut the process at the very least. And I'm only going to really worry about going up to the top here, because then we can just mirror this thing over. Do a lot of center pivots here. Oops. Try that again. I'm going to hit Shift minus because I feel like my my transform is a little bit... Oh, in this case it's just the minus key. I guess it's Shift plus and minus. Anyway, I think it was a little bit big. So let's see, we got negative 90 there, or 90. It doesn't actually make any difference probably. Yeah, same thing. And we'll need to adjust exactly where that center line is relative to the geo. Do the center pivot on that one. All right, let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to combine all of this. Go to face mode. And turn on wireframe, because it looks like we do have... I'm going to turn the symmetry off, which isn't just quite yet. We'll delete those. We can leave, and then I'm going to try this one and this one. So you can grab the open edges. These are now open faces. And we'll do a bridge. Oops. No, we want to bridge it, and then we're going to connect it. So first we bridge, and then I'm going to basically just grab all of these edges in this ring here, and then open the connect menu, edit mesh connect. But I definitely want to insert with edge flow, so let me try that again. Cool. So I think if I just adjust this a little bit, do the same thing over here and over there. And whatever, we're gonna have to go in there and make some modifications. But I don't know, for some reason I feel like this might be easier. Who knows? It's a pretty small piece there. But okay, we're already 11 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video and we'll pick up the next one.